Hello and welcome to the Republic of Football. I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson, alongside staff writer Carter Yates. What's up, man?
In my opinion, it's the best week of the year, the Red River Rivalry. Red River Rivalry.
I was just about to say, you almost got through it without doing the tongue twister.
So I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Needless to say.
Yeah. In the other room, of course, is everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley. How you doing, Mallory?
Good. I feel like some people would say this is like the worst week of the year because almost every single team in the state of Texas is on a bye week because we only have 4 games to talk about this week.
Au contraire, everyone did so well in week 6 that everyone's getting a little nice week off, kicking their feet back, hands behind the head. They did their job.
They could see the chaos ensue with Red River. Mike Craven, not on this week's episode. You can, of course, hear him and Carter on the recap episodes on Sunday/Saturday night, depending on, obviously, this past weekend. Things went a little late, so things got up. This one was up Sunday morning because Tech is operating sometimes, as some of the Big 12 teams will, on Mountain/Pacific time.
Yeah, the new Big 12 after dark.
Yeah, that's been an adjustment, but I'm trying to think. What's the next one?
That and the Big 10 too.
That's true. Yeah, we got Big 10 after dark. We have ACC after dark too. Because technically,
because Cal and
Stanford.
Who did? Cal and Miami played this week, and I was like, how is this a conference matchup?
That was very much like, I feel bad for the people who went to game day and then
At
had to wait 12 hours, longer than over 12 hours.
It's ridiculous.
To wait for the game to actually kick off. So I'm surprised. Really good scene there.
And they showed out too.
No, they really showed out.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised. I was really shocked to see how well they showed out later in the game.
Yeah.
Or later in the day, because I was like, oh my god, they've been there for almost 24 hours basically at this point.
Did y'all watch that Cal Miami game?
Oh, it was great.
It was awesome.
It was
They
crazy.
came back. Miami came back and won that game.
Yeah, I went to bed and I woke up. Miami won. I was like, oh.
I was split screening that game with the Texas Tech Arizona game.
Yeah.
So it was pretty great. It was pretty cool.
On today's episode, of course, as Carter mentioned, Red River Week. That'll be along with basically just 4 games, and along with 3 other games, I should say. So we'll be discussing every single interstate game at the FBS level after our first segment, which of course is usually headlines. No real big news breakings as far as injuries or coaching news or whatever, but Ross Dellinger had a piece, and this will be the only headline. Then we'll go to our games of the week after our friends from BWell, Texas. But I wanted to talk about this piece. Ross Dellinger this morning at Yahoo Sports had a interesting piece drop. Of course, Ross Dellinger, Carter mentioned he has probably the worst job right now because it's a lot of board meetings and a lot of decks that he probably has to go through.
Yeah, he's just sifting through conference realignment PowerPoints basically.
Right. And so he had something today, and we were all 3 of us were looking at it. I was like, there's probably nothing interesting in here. And then we looked a couple graphs down. It's oh, never mind. Just
this is
a
huge.
potential seismic shift in how college football works. So again, go check out the piece for yourself, but it is on Yahoo Sports. The headline is, while SEC and Big Ten leaders mull major changes, a new Super League concept looms that could radically alter college sports. Now, again, I'm not going to read this word for word, but long story short, this is a pitch from basically what I get from this is non-SEC and Big Ten leaders, or at least primarily non-SEC and Big Ten Power 5 leaders helping spearhead or helping hear out, probably not spearhead, but hear out this proposal called Project Rudy, which is an amazing title because if you know anything about the real life Rudy, it's about a guy who also got busted for being a fraud as well. Yeah. So it's very interesting that this is also.
Fun fact about me is I have a picture with him when I was 9 years old. I think that was a year before he got indicted by the Security Exchange Commission on a pump and dump scheme.
Right.
So I was
there.
No
kidding.
Yeah, I was there right before that. Look, I looked up to Rudy growing up, of course. He was the walk-on, right?
He was the walk-on. He was seen as the walk-on.
That might have gotten a sack, maybe not. I don't know. Hard to tell. But it is funny that they're naming this project of creating a super league, basically, of all the biggest brands in college football after the walk-on.
Yeah. So here's a summary of it. And again, you can go into the detail because Ross does he basically got the slide deck from this committee. It is spearheaded by former Disney executives turned investment professionals, Project Rudy. This is from the article itself.
At Smash Capital. Yes.
Basically, this is a Power 5. This has nothing to do with the Group of 5, I should mention. A Power 5 Super League with promotion and relegation. What he proposes is 3 tiers of college football. The top tier would be what everybody knows as the Blue Bloods. And essentially a private firm known as Smash Capital. Was it Smash Capital, right?
Yeah, the Smash. This is the Smash plan.
Smash plan, which he refers to it as. Pumping literally billions of dollars into the roughly 70 group league. and basically negotiating with one big TV deal for this league instead of with conferences, and acting as, if you're familiar with the Premier League, a promotion relegation system with 3 tiers in those 70 teams. So essentially, again, go look for the big details in the article itself, but I'm going to go with, let's say, the Texases, the Ohio States, and the Alabamas and the Georgias are up here. Obviously, there's like 16 teams in the top tier. Going all the way down to the Vanderbilts, the Northwestern states, right?
Well, Vanderbilt might be at the top of that tier now.
Sure, I was about to say, shout out Diego Pavia.
No kidding.
But in
also, they're the
yeah.
Cheez-It National Team of the Week. I just want to point that out. So, yes, Vanderbilt is.
But I should mention, in this proposal, they strictly say there will be no non-Power 5 scheduling for the Power 5 teams, right? And no non-FBS scheduling. So it'd be them against each other, everybody else taking their ball and go home, or the Power 5, I should say, taking its ball and going home. And right now, the idea right now, the news that Ross broke is that they are now pitching this to the SEC and the Big Ten, because they know the SEC and the Big Ten are the have-mores in the group of haves. And so right now they've already pitched this to ACC, Big 10, Big 12, I should say, and that's probably it right now, leaders, and they're pitching it to the rest of them saying, hey, what if we all just pack together and leave? And that's that's the only news that it's not imminent or whatever, but I think we all know
7 to 10 years for the next media rights deal.
Right. I think we all know that college football change is coming, and this is an option that Ross is now saying is now being put in front of a lot of the decision makers.
It makes sense when Craven wrote the story about the group of 5 coaches in Texas foreseeing a split coming in their own G5 college football playoff. Like, this is kind of what they were talking about.
Right. And I mean, look, I put on Twitter, like, people that for the past 5 years have been claiming for, the expanded playoff and blah, blah, blah. And, wasn't it great to get rid of the BCS? And wasn't it great to get rid of the AP national champion? Like, sure, yeah, I get the issue with, like, having the AP choose a national champion. I get that completely. I understand the hesitancy of the BCS choosing a national champion. But my rejection to the college football playoff was that college football was never about a national champion. And because they put so much equity into a single corporate entity, which in this case is Disney / ESPN, who own the college.
Smash.
Well, no, not now, not right now.
Okay,
I'm
soon
talking
to
about
be
like
Smash.
the playoff in
Yes,
particular.
yeah.
You put so much money in a stakeholder like Disney that has nothing but profits at the forefront, and you give them the equity of the college football national championship. They're going to act on that and try to make that matter the most. And what makes the most sense? Oh, well, let's not even worry about all the other teams that don't play for this thing. Let's move on to a model that only subsidizes those teams that do.
How is this different from the College Sports Tomorrow group that came up with the Super League concept like a year ago? This feels like the same thing.
More or less. I think there's more numbers. Again, if you read the Ross Nellinger piece, there's more numbers about like how things will be distributed, and I think the promotion relegation piece is pretty new.
The College Sports Tomorrow was kind of like me saying there should be a Super League. This is like, here's how we'd actually do it.
Right. Here's how we actually do it. The 3 tiers list. Here's the actual like Smash Capital actually has like money, like as far as like here's the proposed money. But anyway, unfortunately, realignment is not going to end even if the Pac-12 decides to get a bunch of teams tomorrow. Right, because we know what eventually is coming. So that's the only real headline news, but it was pretty interesting that it dropped this morning, so we wanted to get that out off the top. All right, before we get into the actual games, while you're actually here, Red River, UTSA Rice, North Texas FAU, and UTEP WKU, Western Kentucky. Here's a word from our sponsor at BUL Texas.
Be Well Texas helps people who are struggling with the use of alcohol or drugs. They offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere in Texas. Find help for you or a loved one today.
Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment if you don't have insurance. Call 888-85-BE-WELL.
Thanks again to our partners at Be Well Texas. If you're familiar with our show, you know we also have a nice little partnership with Home Field Apparel. Woke up this morning to a nice little 70 on the temperature gauge, which was really nice to see. If you are going out to Red River this weekend, you are support Texas, or if you support Oklahoma, regardless of, I know we're in Dallas. I know there's some crossover there. Be sure to stop by homefieldapparel.com. promo code DCTF for 10% off your first time purchase. Look, they just unveiled that they're going to start doing these, I forgot what exactly they're called here. They are these mid-season classic drops, I should say. They just announced that the ACC is coming soon, which includes SMU. So fans, if you love these nice little designed pullovers, again, if you're a Texas fan, I believe there's a Texas one coming soon. They're not announced yet, but they're on the website as far as like coming soon. Go check out homefieldapparel.com, the best retro/vintage college apparel on the market. Promo code DCTF. You can support either us or any of the other Republican football shows on the ROF network if you want to give a shout out to them as well.
I really need to go look at the Michigan State stuff because I will actually be up in East Lansing next Saturday for the Michigan State Iowa game with my family. So
that's awesome.
I need to visit home field and get something kind of cool.
Yes, Mallory will be in the stands just crying tears of joy about a 9-6 football game.
And you know what, Carter? I told you I'm going to enjoy every single second of it.
I know.
Every single second
I'm
of it.
jealous. I wish I was there too. I want to see Kirk Ferentz in person.
Oh, God.
Me too. The only thing that would have made it better is Brian Ferentz was still there, but he's not.
You got it in 1 year too.
So
late.
I did tell my parents.
Football.
I did tell my parents. I was like, my attire for this game might actually be just a plain white T-shirt with my tweet about Iowa football on it that went viral on
They're
it.
going to go the Mama Kelsey.
No, just my tweet about
Split
Iowa
jersey.
football that went viral.
Split Connor Cook, Brian Ferentz jersey.
Brian Ferentz jersey would be insane. All right, Mallory, what are our games of the week?
Well, we don't really have games of the week because we
only have
four games. It's funny because I didn't realize we only had 4 games, and I was like, oh, well, are we going to have like a lightning round? And I was like, wait, all of these teams are on byes this week, which makes complete sense.
This might be a short episode.
Might be a short episode, but we're starting off with one of the most exciting games of the entire season.
UTEP versus Western Kentucky.
Correct. 2 Conference USA contenders. Just kidding. Absolutely just kidding. Number 1, Texas.
2.
What?
You said 2 conference. I was like, I don't know about one of those.
No, I was that was the joke.
Okay, you know what?
That was the joke because
Fair enough.
Move
on.
Anyways,
I didn't get it. Move on.
Because UTEP obviously is not. But anyways, don't need to explain myself. Number 1, Texas, playing number 18, Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl in the Red River rivalry this Saturday, October 12th at 2:30 p.m. You can watch it on ABC. Texas 14.5 point favorites. The over-under 54.5. Did y'all see the whole thing about Quinn Ewers and what he said about his dream that he had the other night?
I did not see this.
So apparently he had a dream the other night that they only beat when the line came out, they only beat Oklahoma by 14 in his dream, and he woke up sad because he was like, no, we're going to crush them.
Awesome.
That's great.
I love that energy.
That's great. All right, so the big news, obviously, is that Quinn Ewers is likely back for this one. From all intents and purposes, he will start this game. They've been very cautious with him as far as Arch Manning's looked fine, and so they've been no reason to push him. My questions aren't on the Texas side of this game. They're all on the Oklahoma side. Because I think we know, even with Quinn Ewers, even if it was Arch Manning going into the game, I think we know what Texas would be heading into this game. I think they're a team that are better in most areas, if not the whole field, as far as like on paper, right, compared to Oklahoma. What does here's the wild card. There's 2 wild cards, and I think Sark mentioned this in his presser as well. You give Brent Venables 2 weeks to prepare for an offense. That's a problem. As we saw last year, and then the other one is, as we saw last year, the most talented team does not always win these games, right? Blowouts are not the norm. Of course, we mentioned it. We remember a couple years ago where that happened in Brent Venables' first year. That's an anomaly.
When Oklahoma was playing without a forward pass.
They did not. Did not have a quarterback who could throw a forward pass. They would have been better just putting somebody in Wildcat and just going from there. But now, I still don't know about Mike Hawkins' capabilities as far as a quarterback. He looked fine against Auburn, but he still looked like a freshman.
They're getting a lot of leg out of the 60-yard pass he threw.
Yes, 100%.
Oklahoma fans
100%.
Like, see, look at that. He can do it.
Right. And it's like, cool.
Show me the other 15 throws.
I was about to say, like this. Speaking of Brent Venables, we can talk about Pete Kwiatkowski too. Like, you give him a couple weeks to prepare for a true freshman quarterback. Like, oh, come on now. Like, this is going to be by far the most intense environment that Mike Hawkins has played in his entire career. Obviously, Auburn, it was nice to get him on the road against Auburn in a hostile environment, but this is different. As we know, this is just different. It's different to throw a pick and then hear one side of the stadium go completely silent, right? Your fans, and then the other side go completely rabid, right? That's a mental thing that he just has to get over. And at times against Auburn, I think you saw both the good and the bad. You saw him be able to use his legs to get out of the pocket when the pocket collapsed. But you also saw when the pocket collapsed, I don't think it's a bad thing that he was very decisive in that he was looking to run a lot more. But like there was one, I believe in the red zone in particular, there was a situation where they had a swing pass on the left and the pocket collapsed and he was like, run. You know, it was like, it's those things that like he needs experience, but it's like, okay, it's his second start, third ever game potentially in college against the number one team in the country.
This is a very tough ask.
This is a very tough ask. Yeah. So I don't see how this game, again, we'll see voodoo magic, all this stuff happens in this kind of game, but I don't see how this game gets within 2 scores, in my opinion.
The thing I think Mike Hawkins could be dangerous with is the legs, because last year Texas gave up 113 rushing yards to Dylan Gabriel.
I was about to say, Dylan Gabriel was
not the most mobile guy.
No. I had my issues with Dylan Gabriel, and I think Oregon fans do as well now, but he was the reason they won that game against Texas last year. A big reason, on offense in particular.
I do think Mike Hawkins in his second start is going to be looking to run a little too much, though.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Like, Dylan Gabriel was so lethal because he was going through every progression, and then if it wasn't there, there was a wide open lane. I think Mike Hawkins is going to be like, the first read isn't there, I'm ducking my head, I'm going for it. Which, to be clear, is exactly what I would do if I was him.
Sure.
And starting my second.
Yes, no, 100%. I mean, I like that they simplified things for him, but yeah, I'm very curious. Now, on the Texas side, though, this is where I'm very fascinated in. Because Quinn Ewers, as we know, Quinn Ewers is, there's discussions of him being QB1 in the draft. We know about what he is now as a product. There's a reason why Sark never flinched even when Arch looked really good. It was like, Quinn's still the guy. Even back in the spring, Quinn's still the guy. We know what this offense is. It's very, very explosive. The running game has been a nice surprise for me despite all the injuries. It's been still reliable-ish. Here's my thing in this game. I have worried about the offensive line protection in the pass pro in particular. I think that it has been fine, but not great. I expected this offensive line to be arguably the best, if not one of the best, pass pros in the country. And I don't think it's been that. I think there's been some times, especially when Arch Manning was in there as well, but even before that, where Quinn was a little bit under duress. And that's what I'm worried about in particular, because I do think this Oklahoma defense is very good.
They're going to be showing some pictures that Quinn Ewers and that Texas offensive line hasn't seen on film or all season. And if Quinn is going to be under duress, you got to remember the game last year, he had 3 turnovers, which really hampered. One of those was like a pick on the first play of the game.
Right.
Which he's a great quarterback, but he does have the tendency to throw just the weirdest interception ever on the first play of the game.
I don't know if it's a QB room thing, because Arch does now too. Like in his first couple starts, Arch also has like, why did you throw that one?
And it's always the first play of the game. And everyone just looks around in the stands like, what the hell was that?
It's like, move on. It's kind of like a move on from that.
But the last time Quinn Ewers missed 3 weeks before the Oklahoma game, he came out and threw 4 touchdown passes and won 49-0. So,
I was about to say, this is a guy who's now, like, his thing is now big games, right? Like, I have full confidence in saying that you look at Quinn Ewers in a big game, whether it's Red River, whether it's the playoff last year, Alabama, Michigan. He's a guy who now elevates his game to the environment around him. And, I mean, the Big 12 title game, he was flawless, right? Like, they had something to play for in the Big 12, and they just crushed Oklahoma State, and he was near, like, they just played incredibly. So, that's why I'm not worried about him in particular, right? I don't think he's going to be, like, sure, will he throw a pick in this game? Sure. Both quarterbacks have had mistakes in this game all the time. But I just wonder if a lot of people likened the Jackson Arnold to Mike Hawkins switch to the Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams. One, that happened during Red River, right? So, like, it gave Texas
I was there when it happened.
Right. And it gave Texas something that they did not see on film, that they're like, what's happening here? Who's this? We don't know this guy. Now that's gone. There's 3 games of film now on Mike Hawkins. So that's my thing. If this is something, here's the other thing that I've been wondering about. Oklahoma's offense because of their defense, has had excellent field position in majority of their games. And they haven't always still capitalized on that. So what happens with Texas, who gets a couple scores on that defense, and it's just regular kickoff from the 20 to 30, and Mike Hawkins has to drive against this really good defense, 70, 80 yards. That's a different question. So
Texas should roll, But when Mallory reads off the spread is 14.5, I say it's absurd because this game is when the best athletes in the Southwest go to the Cotton Bowl and lose their minds.
Right.
Crazy
In
stuff
both
happens.
good and bad ways.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It's just one of those games that it doesn't matter how good or how bad either team is. It could seriously go either way.
And you know what people aren't talking about enough is the 2:30 kickoff time.
It's different.
Yeah, because it's always
different.
11 a.m.
It's
different.
always
That's
11
right.
a.m. It is always the toughest wake-up call in sports.
It is very much
for the
so.
fans
Yeah.
who enjoyed themselves on Friday night.
100%.
The fair's going to be a war ground. Now, 3 hours before that 2:30 kick to get routed. Because
Yeah.
usually it's like, okay, people roll in super hungover to the fair, and then whichever team loses just gets out of Dodge. Like, literally leave
Right.
the fair.
Yes.
Now everyone's going to be hyped up for 3 hours going into that. It's going to be so rowdy there.
Yeah. Here's one more thing. Last thing from me on this game. Oklahoma's receivers kind of stink.
Is Deion Burks coming back, though?
Is he coming back?
He might be.
Okay. That helps a lot.
That's actually a huge
That helps a lot
difference
because
when he comes
listen,
back.
I like Brennan Thompson. He was the 6th guy on this Texas team, and if he's like your number 2,
Yeah, it's tough.
we're having issues. So we don't often do this. I'll do this. I want to do this for this game and then Texas A&M later in the season. They cover Texas.
Does Texas cover?
Yeah.
No.
You don't think so? I'm gonna say they do. Mallory,
I think they cover.
think they cover?
I think they're much better than Oklahoma. But again, anything happens, and anything can happen. But I think they cover.
Okay. All
But
right.
I also literally had an aneurysm when you announced the Missouri line, Texas A&M line last week. And
Yeah,
that
that's
was
fair.
a drubbing. So
What was
no,
the
we're
line
on
again?
that.
I don't remember.
It was Texas A&M -2.5.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Crazy.
All right, so I mean, obviously, we'll have our eyes on this one because every year, no matter what these teams are doing, we will have
Correct.
this one. By the way, next week, how about back-to-back Oklahoma, Georgia for Texas,
It's and then Vanderbilt.
and
after
then
that.
then Diego Pavia, the destroyer of
The SEC powerhouse that is Vanderbilt.
perhaps the scariest game.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt.
all right,
funny.
let's move on. Mallory, what's next?
Not an as exciting game. UTSA playing at Rice this Saturday at 6 p.m. Can watch it on ESPN Plus. UTSA is 4-point favorites. The over/under is 47.5. UTSA 4-point favorites.
So,
Guys,
I-
UTSA 4-point favorites over
But
a Rice team that has not beaten an FBS opponent this season.
Yeah.
the advanced stat nerds give Rice a
I was about to say-
63.58% win probability.
I was about to say, Parker's numbers hate UTSA.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Parker, Stats War on Twitter. They hate UTSA.
Well, because the
Very
guys who made advanced stats are all Rice grads, probably.
bad. That's very true. It's just like, Rice, let's put a little number in here to juice up the Rice probability.
You're not smart enough to figure it out anyway, so you can't check my work.
They're not wrong. Here's one thing. I think UTSA has like the sneakiest bad loss of the year with ECU.
Yeah,
That's a double-digit loss to an ECU team that's not very good. So I can see why a lot of numbers probably don't like UTSA. Guys, this is one where I just say, look at the rosters. To me, like Rice
Yeah.
lost to Charlotte last week. Charlotte, who might be bottom 5 team in the country, which unfortunately you might have to throw Rice in there potentially in that discussion.
Then what is Rice?
Yeah, potentially because I mean that team is not nearly. I like this Rice roster on paper, but obviously they haven't executed things as well as they should have. I don't know what Rice does well right now. I think they are.
They run a lot of formations.
I was about to say they
Yeah.
have a lot of stuff they flash on offense. I think I like a lot of their individual players, Dean Connors, EJ Warner. I think their passing offense is passable, but I don't think anything they do is consistent enough to warrant me not liking UTSA in this game.
Yeah. Also, UTSA had their best practice of the season yesterday, so your advanced stats don't take that into account.
I'll have you say, sir. We practiced very well.
I'm cutting that. That was funny.
Reading the Jeff Traylor PR.
Jeff Traylor PR. Here's another one for you. Jeff Traylor is going to surpass Larry Coker for the most games coach at UTSA this week.
Oh, there
He
you
is
go.
27-5 in conference games. I think UTSA wins this one.
I think they do too.
I think they cover by a million.
I think they win by a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like this Rice team for the rest of the year, really.
Yeah, I really
for
don't
the
either.
rest of the year.
No, I really don't either.
No,
I'll say
I
this.
know, it's
the
funny, but-
matchup to watch here is going to be. Has there ever been a movable force versus a what's the actual phrase? Immovable force versus an invincible object. What is it called?
Wait.
Irresistible force versus the immovable object. What's a resistible force versus a movable object? AKA the UTSA run offense versus the Rice rush defense.
Yeah.
Both are horrendous. So something has to break. I'm going to lean towards UTSA's rushing offense finally getting into gear because I know these running backs, or at least this offense has done it before in previous years. So I'm going to lean with UTSA finding its run game and pulling away because Owen McCown, we know what he is. I don't think he's played that badly this year. I just think he has nothing else on offense.
The problem is, and I got this from the Roost. They do a great job on covering the Rice Owls.
Yeah.
UTSA for the last 3 years, from 2021 to 2023, was either first or second in third down conversion percentage, and this year they're converting 33%. So they just have no sustained drives.
Right. And, I mean, Craven mentioned this too. When you lose a lot of wide receiver talent as well, and you can't run the ball, you're kind of relying on a guy who, again, I like Owen McCown, but I think we know his ceiling as far as like how good he can be. I think if there's a lot more things going on better around him, he can be better. But
Another note on this one: UTSA faces all 4 teams nicknamed after owls.
I was about to say, is this the start of that?
This is the start
Oh
of it.
yeah, I forgot about
They're
that.
the only team in the country that faces all 4.
All 4. Temp. Can you name them all? Rice,
Rice, Temple,
FAU.
FAU, and Kennesaw State.
There we go. That was way better than I could have done.
I didn't know Kennesaw
They
State.
already
were
beat
the
Kennesaw
Owls.
State, so this is the second one. This is the second
Nice.
out.
Speaking of FAU,
Maybe they'll just beat all. Okay, good one. I was gonna say something, but
Nope, that transition. Keep going.
No, you can say something. Sorry,
I was
took
just
over.
gonna say maybe their lucky charm is just beating the Owls. I don't know.
Speaking of beating owls,
Ah, good transition. North Texas playing at FAU, the Owls, this Saturday at 6 p.m. You can watch it on ESPN2. North Texas 7-point favorites. The over/under 59.5. This game intrigues me
It does.
because these two teams are very much still in the hunt for maybe FAU not so much, but definitely still in the hunt for a AAC title.
I think because I think one, the AAC kind of stinks this year as far as
Yeah, it's anyone's game. I
It's
think.
anyone's game, and that's why I think they're not out of it. I'm with you. I wouldn't put them in the front of that bunch, but they're not out of it yet. An upset this week, which I do think it will be an upset. What's the spread again?
North Texas 7.
Okay, yeah,
Favored
so
by
it
7.
would be an upset. But like an upset this week, and they're still well within the hunt because I'm looking at their schedule. It's just not a very good conference. But it also lends me to think about North Texas. How good do we think they are?
well, here's the case for them being good.
Yeah.
This is from Doug Waters at UNT. They're one of 6 FBS teams in the nation in the top 15 in scoring, total, and passing offense. So
Okay.
that's
That
evidence
is
for
a good thing. That is a good thing.
The combined record of the teams they beat are 8-14.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the only team they played with a pulse was Texas Tech, and they lost
That doesn't count, though.
68
Well,
to 21.
To be
Yeah, that
fair,
doesn't
they
count.
beat that South Alabama win. I think is getting better,
That-
but
yeah.
Gio Lopez did not finish that game. The South Alabama quarterback who's been lighting teams up. So I believe they're 2-4, but those are to LSU, and they lost a really close game to Arkansas State last week. But regardless, I think that was a decent win for me in my mind.
This is the start of the test. Like,
Yes,
I
I was about to
wrote
say.
in my ranking of the conference contenders
Yeah.
today, and we'll discuss this coming up, but North Texas, it's not that they're out of the woods. They haven't even entered the woods yet.
Right.
Like,
Tulsa's not good.
FAU's the first tree
Yes.
in the woods. And then you go Memphis, Tulane, Army, which we're going to find out real quick if they're for real.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because Army is armying right now. Shout out Bryson Daly
Yeah.
of Abernathy, right? Yeah, Abernathy, Texas. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know what to think about this FAU team. I think the Tom Herman experiment is still very much up in the air.
They're
as
kind
far
of like
as,
North
what-
Texas. Like, they just haven't really played anyone that we can tell how good they are.
Right. And also, like, I just don't think – I think they're able to run the ball, FAU has been. But, like, I think everybody saw the Tom Herman hire, and they're like, oh, that's going to turn things around.
Yeah,
Get
it's a
FAU.
sexy hire.
Right. It's like, oh, it's going to get things back to the previous era where it's like, oh, my gosh, everybody dreaded playing FAU. You know, FAU always had North Texas number when they played in the Conference USA championships. And it just hasn't gotten there yet.
Tom Herman's caught a couple strays this week.
Yeah.
Washington Commanders offensive tackle Sam Cosmi, a former All Big 12 guy for Texas, he said, I didn't really understand culture. I haven't been part of a good culture. So that was tough. And then Lil Jordan Humphrey was on a podcast, and he said he didn't get hard and detailed coaching in college. So been a tough week for Tom Herman.
Oh, yeah, it's rough. Look, FAU is still I think both these teams are very much still not unknowns. I feel more confident about UNT, let's just put it that way.
I do too.
But as far as the ceiling in the conference, I'm still very much like Carter said, it's a wait and see for UNT for me. But from what I have seen, promising.
I think UNT is a year away from true conference contention.
I don't think that's a bad, and I don't think that's also, I agree with that, and I don't think that also discredits what they've done so far.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because how many more years does Seth Hennigan have?
This has to be it.
This has to be it, right?
Hold on, let me
This
look it
has
up
to
right
be
now.
it.
I will look up
There's
Seth
no
Hennigan's.
way he has more eligibility.
No, not,
Seth
and that's
Hennigan is, see, 2024. Let's see what the actual roster lists him as. Lists him as a senior, so yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't. But here's the thing: I don't trust that with like Alan Bowman and Cam Rising. I don't trust that.
Well, to
so.
be fair, he did become a freshman in 2021, so it was after COVID, so he would not have a COVID year.
Man,
Okay.
you need to worry about Seth Hennigan. You need to worry about Bryson Daly. That guy is a monster.
I was about to say,
Yeah,
Bryson
that's
Daly
not who
is
I'm
like
worried
a
about.
freshman, just like putting up Barry
Crazy
Sanders numbers in the
numbers.
triple option right now.
Yeah.
All
right, let's
do a
get
Bryson
to-
Daly episode on.
Yeah. No kidding. All right, let's get to our literally last game of
Also,
the
he's a
slate
senior.
this
He's not,
week.
I don't know why I said he's a freshman. He's definitely a senior.
Yeah. Okay.
Bryson Daly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Talk about a guy I want to see have some more eligibility. It's him.
does
Not
he have
me.
COVID eligibility?
No, not me, as my team is playing against him. I mean, AC. Anyways, last game of the slate, UTEP playing at Western Kentucky this Thursday, October 10th at 7 p.m. You can watch it on ESPNU. Western Kentucky, 20.5-point favorites. The over-unders, 56.5.
All right, so yeah.
This is tough.
So I remember before the show, I was asking Carter. I was like, "Hey, is TJ Finley playing?" And the answer is probably, "Who cares?" Like, I don't
Oh,
care.
yeah, it doesn't
Caden
matter.
Veltkamp can come to that game for Western Kentucky, and it probably doesn't matter. Look,
No.
I think I was very encouraged by what I saw for 2 quarters last week against Sam Houston, because I think it was like, oh, is UTEP's defense doing pretty well against this Sam offense that knows its identity, that wants to run the ball and that kind of knows what it wants to do. And it was like, oh no, Sam's just like doesn't need to get out of 2 on the gear shift. Like, it's just like we can just play, and they didn't get out of 2. They just kept it in 2 and they eventually won. And it was like, oh, okay, UTEP couldn't keep up and they just got bloodied and they could not move the ball again.
The
despite
UTEP
quarterback
offense
change.
can't. The UTEP offense can't do anything.
It's the issue with, and I remember this, I relate this back to when Texas State hired Everett Withers and they brought over an exciting offense from James Madison at the time. It's the issue when you have this offense at the FCS level and you just kind of import your staff from the FCS level without really addressing the roster. And you just try to do the thing that you were doing at the FCS level with a roster that needs to be torn down, right? And at Austin Peay, they're a pretty good offense, right? Just like at James Madison, Everett Withers had a good offense. But they did not look, conversely, let's look at Eric Morris and G.J. Kinney, right?
Yeah.
Successful FCS offenses. But guess what? They brought in some dudes to help run that offense too.
Yeah, that's true. And it's hard to criticize Scotty Walden for that though, because
Sure.
Eric Morris and G.J. Kinney had Texas ties. We're at FCS teams in Texas.
Sure.
And Scotty Walden, he's a Cleburne guy, but
Yeah, I
he
get it.
spent a lot of time outside of Texas. Was at Austin Peay and UTEP, which we forget how
Southern
far
Miss as well
away.
before that. So yeah.
Southern Miss before that. We forget how far away El Paso is.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he should have. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make this seem like he should have just brought in dudes to UTEP.
because I had this thought too when I was watching the game. I thought before the season it was concerning how they imported basically Austin Peay's roster onto UTEP.
Right.
And I was like, is that a fair criticism to make of Scotty Walden? And the more I talked about it with Craven, honestly, I was like, I don't think it is really, because what else would Scotty Walden have done?
I was about to say,
I don't know.
Because, we knew that UTEP roster wasn't good enough as is. And it's not like he can just go get guys that UNT brings in or Texas State brings in, right? Because of geographic locations, resources, we know that. But I think it just shows the product for what it is, right? I don't think, again, I'm not criticizing because I think we knew this is kind of what it would be in year one, but it is just me addressing the reality of the fact that the things that they're trying to do just cannot be done, whether it's offensive line, wide receiver talent, quarterback, whatever, right? They just cannot be done with what he's brought in for this year.
We thought they would have been like 1-4, and they're 0-5.
I was about to say, and it's not looking any better. I mean, maybe La Tech in 2 weeks, right? They may move on from their head coach, or New Mexico State at the end of the year, who looks really bad right now.
There are some wins that
there
they
are
need
some
to be
wins.
competitive in those games.
100%. And, I mean, again, it's not going to come against Western Kentucky because Caden Veltkamp has starting experience, and they just have a better roster overall. They barely lost to Boston College last week. So they should be probably 4-1, and they're a conference contender. So
Was
Yeah.
Boston College's quarterback playing though?
I don't think Castellanos was in. No.
Okay.
So
I mean,
sure, yeah,
take that
still.
as you will, but
yeah. I think it was great. I think it was Grayson James. Shout out Duncan Dole.
Yeah.
no kidding.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
he was their backup.
To
for-
Duran Bradley for the game-winning touchdown.
Oh!
That is a good point. I
Oh!
forgot he was there. Look at that.
Wow. That
So,
rocks.
Yeah, we'll end our UTEP talk talking about Boston College. But no, like we kind of know what it is. I think UTEP fans are unfortunately, when you hire a guy like Scotty Wallen and you see the campaigning he does, rightfully so. I'm not saying he was wrong to do any of that, but then you see those season turn out, it's like, all right. You know, you kind of check out after a while, and I don't blame them. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a process. Probably
It's gonna
2
be
years.
Very, very big process. All right, Mallory, we have one last little thing before we get out of here. If you would flash up on the screen.
No,
Okay, fine.
just kidding.
For those listening, you can go to our go to TexasFootball.com, by the way, and check out Carter's midseason check-in piece, where he talked over the Texas teams in contention right now for conference titles. Right now, we have 7 listed: Texas, A&M, SMU, Tech, Sam Houston, North Texas, and Texas State. Of course, we're not saying these are the only teams and no other team, but right now, this is what he would bet on being in a conference championship game as opposed to the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought this was going to be a down year for Texas going into
Yeah, this is
I'll say
huge.
credit North Texas and credit Sam Houston.
There are
And
surprises.
I'll say SMU as well. I don't think we expected SMU to compete immediately in the. I did not expect them to.
I
I
definitely
know
said
Mallory
in the
did.
magazine that SMU is taking a step back, and Coach Lashley was like, "Yeah, no."
So-
He called me out for that.
So I will say, I'll throw A&M in there as well. I'll say A&M, SMU, Sam Houston, North Texas. Credit to those schools for upping what our expectations probably were for them, at least at this point. Because I think A&M, I would have picked them to lose to Missouri in the summer last week, right? Texas State, obviously, we had high expectations for. Tech, it was a make or break year in a lot of ways. Texas, obviously, but everybody else, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Okay, so let's rank them based off who has the most likelihood to make the conference championship game.
That's hard.
Let's rank
3 tiers.
Okay, 3 tiers. Okay.
There's 1, you're in the driver's seat.
Okay.
There is 2, you're probably gonna need some help. And there's 3, time will tell, kind of doubt it's gonna happen right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we disagreeing on Texas being universal number 1 right now?
no,
Texas is number 1.
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
easily in the driver's
Yeah,
seat.
They
Okay.
control their own destiny. They're the only undefeated SEC program. They also have
That's
a margin
they
of
just look
error.
like besides Ohio State, they just look like the best team in the country right now.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
The other team in the driver's seat,
Mhm.
Texas State.
You
is
think
still-
so?
Really?
Because,
Okay.
look, they remind me so much of Texas Tech from last year, where they went into the season as preseason Big 12 champion dark horse.
Yeah.
Texas State was like preseason college football playoff dark horse.
Right.
And the shine is quickly rubbed off. But we were going to look at Texas State at the end of the year and be like, oh, they're still on track.
Yeah.
Or they still had a very successful year.
Sure.
Everything is to play for in the Sun Belt still.
I also think the rest of the schedule is pretty favorable towards Texas State too.
I think so too. I think we'll see this week, especially against Arkansas State, who's a team that rocked them last year. They're gonna have big revenge on the mind there. I'll agree with that. Or actually, I'll keep. To me, they're 3. Like they're
Yeah.
3 in the. I think SMU is number 2. Right.
Okay, that's where we disagree a bit.
I
Okay,
think
let's
SMU
get into
because
it.
you
Okay.
look at the ACC right now.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Pitt and Cal on their schedule, I don't see a game where I would not pick SMU outright right now. Like,
I completely agree with you on
I don't
that.
want to do the schedule game completely with all these teams, but just looking at the ACC, we obviously know they avoid Miami and Clemson on the schedule. Pitt, okay, they've been fine. They're ranked. Cal, I'm wondering by the time the season ends if they'll still be the same Cal as we've seen so far. Duke has not looked good. I don't think Malik Murphy's it, at least this season.
Duke's 5-1.
I don't think that offense has looked good.
Okay.
I don't think that offense.
They're a soft 5-1.
They're soft. To me, they're a soft 5-1. Now, Virginia has been really good this year. That's the other thing, is that they've avoided. I was talking to Clayton in the office about this as well. He's like, yeah, we avoided Miami and Clemson, but every other team we're playing is like off to their best start. I would still pick SMU pound for pound over those other teams.
What's really
right
tough for SMU is Clemson and Miami also don't play each other.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, it's like
so they need
they
somebody.
could have knocked each other out.
Yeah.
SMU is the biggest Louisville fans for the rest of the year.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they play both Clemson and Miami.
Yeah. So I don't know. I've kept track of Duke on the side just because I wanted to see what Malik Murphy does, and of course Jonathan Packey, former defense coordinator at Texas State's there now. Their defense has looked really good. I just do not think their offense is it.
So I had SMU in the had some help category because if they win out, they're in. I just don't think they're going to win out.
Sure.
So that's just
Sure.
where that disconnect comes in.
That's fair.
The team I had in the driver's seat, Sam Houston.
Really?
Because if they went out there and oh, by the way, Conference USA is not that good.
It's not that good, but I mean, Liberty's still tough.
Liberty's tough. for me.
Liberty, they play Liberty and Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
Well, they play, let me say, Jacksonville State and then Liberty to close out the season. It could be a scenario where they play Liberty back to back, one in the regular
conference
season,
championship.
one for the conference championship.
Yeah, that's a tough. They were there. I think probably in the next tier for me. But
They play Western Kentucky in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
that's
we're-
not
we're
easy
get-
cakewalk either.
look, we can talk about the depth of Conference USA not being very good, but they're entering their tough slate of the schedule.
True.
They're playing the tougher teams in Conference USA.
Sure. Yes, 100%. I don't disagree that Sam should still be a team on the fringe of the driver's seat for me. So, and then in rounding it out, I'm gonna go Tech, North Texas, A&M.
You're putting A&M last.
I think I'm putting A&M last right now. I think that they're
Okay.
a good team. I think they're a good team punching up to being a great team right now.
Okay, I know the schedule game is not fun, but let me just play with A&M.
Sure.
Their remaining schedule is Mississippi State, gross. LSU, which
They're not.
not
yeah,
the
it's
same
not
LSU
the
they've
same
always been.
LSU.
No, not
South Carolina, who's kind of in a free fall. New
geez.
Mexico State,
Oh my God. Okay.
Auburn,
Oh my God. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah,
maybe.
and Texas.
All right.
Dude, we are in a
That might okay.
Stinks. That schedule sucks, like in a good way.
What
Like,
if
Oh my God. No, you're,
the last game
pointing
of
at
the
it.
season,
Say it.
Texas A&M is for the SEC?
I know
title.
that's what it was already the most anticipated game,
That's crazy.
and now it could be for all the marbles.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
then
point.
and then I'm gonna pull out the magazine here,
There you go. Look at that promo.
and we're just gonna show it up
Oh
front.
man. I mean, he looked really good this past
That'd
week.
be
Connor Wigman
insane.
looked really good this past week. God, that's a good point. I did not look at their schedule.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. I'll switch UNT and A&M for now.
Okay. That's what I think too. We've talked UNT, and I just think they're a year away.
yeah.
They're playing they've not played anyone really. They're
Right.
about to play their hardest part of the schedule. They're still on track. I just think it's a little too early to go for the AAC Conference Championship.
Right.
So that makes Tech the interesting one.
Yeah. I think I think Tech needed to be punched in the mouth early in the year because
Yeah.
I wanted to see. I just wanted because I think last year was against Wyoming, or it was like your get right game basically. Like, hey, boom, you're not as good as you think you are. Welcome back to reality. Now you can get right after this. I think they've had that, and I'm wondering now if we're starting to see them round in the right direction. Baron Morton's looking a lot more solid. The defense is looking more capable. The running game is finally starting to come into fruition, and they're not just having to rely on the run game a lot. So, I don't know.
They know who they are this year.
Yes.
And last year, to this point in the season, they still didn't know who they were,
Right. So,
which is what makes them scary.
right. And so,
And the only team really left on their schedule that could, I guess, test them is Iowa State. In my
I was gonna
opinion.
say, like,
they have a favorable schedule to round out the
even
season.
if they played a tough Big 12 schedule to me, I would still like them to not run the tables per se, but like I still like them coming out of that more unscathed than a UNT or an A&M in my opinion.
yeah.
The Big 12 does scare me, though, and that conference is
Oh,
complete chaos.
I was about to say this conference is. I don't even know the standings right now, but it's like
It's like inverted from what it was preseason
yes
already.
Iowa State's 8-1, or excuse me. Let me see. Looking at overall record.
BYU's up there.
Overall record right now: Iowa, Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, all 5 wins. Texas Tech, of course, has a loss. Colorado, Arizona State, Kansas State, Utah, 4 wins. TCU, Oklahoma State, Virginia Tech, Cincinnati, UCF, Arizona, 3 wins. Like that's insane. That's basically 1 to 13 being separated by like 2 games.
That's why I put Texas Tech in the time will tell category. So I think we're pretty much agree.
Pretty on par.
I think so.
Except for I had Sam Houston a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And
I had SMU second for me.
And you had Texas A&M lower, but I think I convinced you Texas A&M's up.
Yeah.
I think Texas A&M is a little bit up. So, yeah. Alrighty. So that'll do it for us. It's not a too much short of a show. I was worried about it being like a 30-minute show. It was like a 45-minute show. So that's a good size.
Pickle and I always do that on WTF Powers and I always do that on Heart and Hustle where it was
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to make it 10 minutes and then we go
Yeah.
35. So,
I was about to say, I don't think there's ever been a 10-minute episode of Heart and Hustle.
no, there has not been.
By the way, plug for Heart and Hustle this week.
Yeah.
Are y'all doing one? 'Cause I
Yeah.
didn't- Okay, making sure.
I don't remember who. I think we're talking about UTEP.
Oh no.
UTEP
Try
and
to
then
go 35 minutes on YouTube.
Oh, we're talking we're talking about Cibolo Steel, and they've got a UTEP
they'll go
commit,
35 on
yeah,
Cibolo Steel.
We'll go 35 on Cibolo Steel.
There you go. By the way, if you are a recruiting person and you want more recruiting content, Hard and Hustle on TexasFootball.com.
Yeah.
Mallory and Greg Powers talk about if y'all pick a high school and y'all pick a college basically and break down prospects for the high school and then the recruiting class for the college coming in.
Yes.
So with that being said, thank you for listening / watching. If you were watching, please remember you can watch us on all our social channels. If you were listening and want to watch, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff. If you are listening, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you don't want to listen to us, please follow everybody else on the Republic of Football Network. Remember as well, you can get this podcast, the Republic of Football, on its own feed, Republic of Football Podcasts. Excuse me. I always mess this up. Republic of Football College Football Podcast. I know it's wordy. We'll work on that in the offseason, but that's just if you want this show right here on your feed. And also, of course, before we go out, Mike Craven's book on TexasFootball.com, Dave Campbell's Guide to Texas College Football, a roadmap, nice little food guide as well to every FBS college football team in the state of Texas. Rank Rutgers, who they have this week?
Wisconsin.
Well, they
lost to Nebraska last week. They don't.
Oh yeah,
they shouldn't be ranked.
They shouldn't be ranked anymore. Anyway, they could be Wisconsin. Wisconsin's garbage.
I hope so.
Anyway, still rank Rutgers.
Rank
I
Rutgers.
don't care. They were late to the party anyway. They should get an honorary ranking. Rank Rutgers, you cowards. Mike Elko, give us a call. Or don't. You look like you're doing fine. So we'll talk to you
don't need
guys
us.
next week.